Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Soul and Screen. In today's episode, you guys, we are going to continue the conversation on soul ties, but we're going to shift gears a little bit. We are going to move from Tyler Perry's Sistas and Zatima and those characters as case studies, and the sexual soul tie and the soul ties between friendships and things like that. We're going to move that over to this new topic of discussion. Well, not necessarily topic of discussion, but new television show, and that is Greenleaf. We are going to start using Greenleaf and the characters' storylines as case studies because we are now diving into the soul ties as it pertains to family dynamics and things like that. So let's just get into it. So you guys, I loved Greenleaf. I did not miss it when it was coming on, and now I'm watching it on Philo for anybody who is actually interested in either watching it for the first time or catching up or refamiliarizing yourself with it. It's on Philo. And I've always loved the show because it actually really touched a whole, it was just so layered with subject matters that mean something to us as a Black community, but also because it was tied to church, it also touched that way, touched that realm as well. And so it was super layered and just, it's so much I think we're going to get out of it. So let's just get into it. So one of the main soul ties that I want to talk about is actually that we're going to start off with is two. It's going to be between Grace and her mom, Lady May, and then the uncle, who is Lady May's brother, who is named, he's called Mac in the television show, and then their relationship with Grace as well. So let's just get into it. So Grace, let me just give a little quick recap. Grace is coming home after 20 years. She's been gone for 20 years. She left and she never returned. She has a 15 or 16-year-old daughter. And she's only returning because her sister passed away she committed suicide, and she's returning home for the funeral. Now, as she's returning home, her dad immediately comes out and he's hugging her, he's greeting her, and he's like, let me hold you, because guess what? He hasn't really seen her in about 20 years. Now, I'm not saying that, we don't know why that they haven't been doing FaceTime or why her parents couldn't go visit her, but the relationship was definitely scarred, and we find out why in the first episode as well. But I say that to say that while the dad was super happy to see her, when her mom came out, you can tell immediately that there was some friction between her and her mom. Her mom was immediately just like, Grace, you gonna say hi to your uncle? And Grace was just like, hey. And then she goes to hug her mom, and her mom immediately was like, listen, I hope you didn't come here to start no problems, basically. And Grace is just like, I actually just came here to pay my respects, Mom, and then I'm out of here. And so she's like, okay, cool. And I say that to say that if you haven't seen your daughter in so long, you see the tension and the friction there, and it's just like, it's just huge. It's paramount. You can't even get past it. You just immediately like, dang, like what's going on? And it turns out, for those who are not familiar with the television show, that there has been some sexual abuse in the family. It originated with, we find out later on in the show, that Grace's uncle Mac attempted to sexually assault her. She actually got away, and he never tried it with her again. But as a result, he ended up going to her younger sister and was continuously molesting her and having relations with her. The sister finally told Grace. Grace got the sister to tell her parents, but what happened was the sister got scared and recanted her statement and was like, it never happened. And so Grace has always been really kind of upset because she believes that her parents should not have taken that recanting seriously. They should have looked into it a little bit more, and they just didn't. They just kind of went on with life. And so eventually, as a result of it, Grace believes that's the reason why she committed suicide. What she did, the sister Faith ended up going into just a life of promiscuity, drugs, and just, she just, spiraled after that, in all honesty. And so Grace is coming back to pay her respects, but you can tell that issue is there. Now, just to kind of push forward into it a little bit more, the dynamic of these soul tie, it comes into play with initially between Lady May and her brother Mac. And once the series kind of goes through, by the time we get to the second season, we find out that one of the reasons that it was so, that the soul tie between Lady May and her brother was so heavy was also because of a sexual abuse. So it turns out that Lady May, her brother, and then her sister Mavis, they all have had some type of traumatic abuse situation in some way. Lady May was her father was sleeping with her, and apparently we find out that Mac, her brother, was watching it. And so, so they knew about that family secret, because the thing is, it never came out until like later on, and Lady May never had disclosed this even to her husband, like, and they have been married for almost like 40 something years at this point, and she never even explained to her husband that she was sexually assaulted by her father. She just stayed away from him. She kept him away from her, apparently her kids and things like that. But I say that to say it was like they were bonded by that, unfortunately. And we are talking about toxic soul ties here, demonic soul ties here. So with this particular situation, but what I'm trying to say is that because of the fact that Lady May and her brother had shared that secret, they had a shared secret that bonded them so tightly and so strong that it overrode her, her tie with her daughter, her soul tie with her daughter, because, and I'm talking about Grace at this point, because she, from that point on, because Grace continued to say that, basically that he sexually assaulted Grace, and you knew what was going on, and because her mom was just like, there's no way he could have done it. And in her mind, she's thinking, he wouldn't have done that because he watched my dad do that to me. But she didn't see that it like literally showed that I can do this to my family member, and the soul tie between my family, between me and my sister, will hold. You know what I'm saying? Because she literally, and what I mean by that is that it was like a secret. Nobody else knew. So this other sister, she didn't know that her sister was being, sexually assaulted by their dad. She just thought that the dad was showing favoritism to her. So she didn't understand that the dresses and the trips to the city to get ice cream and things, that it was because the dad was also sexually assaulting her during those moments. And so she didn't understand that, and apparently at a certain point the son was brought in to see what was going on, and it basically just perpetuated this toxic and demonic action. But what I'm saying is that, as from a soul tie perspective, it was toxic because it let her, Lady May, like perpetuate the lie. Like she couldn't even fathom in her head that he would do that, because he saw my dad doing it to me, but she didn't think that he learned this from doing it from his dad. He learned by watching his dad do it to you. So while he knew it was wrong, because obviously they knew it was wrong because it was secret, nobody said anything, and that is a whole nother story dynamic that we have to pay attention to and be careful of when it comes to soul ties, is that they're secretive, and especially when they're toxic. You know what I mean? And so that soul tie between Lady May and her brother, that secret that tied them together, also gave Lady May blurred vision when it came to the fact that because she just, in her mind, she was watchful for her daughter, and she would never let that happen to her daughter. But you didn't see and listen to, your daughter's, the fact that she was, like afraid. You know what I mean? Like, you put all that on the kid because you understand and thinking that, from the abuser standpoint, he's absolutely telling the young girl that if you say something, you're going to blow up the family. Well, who wants that on their back? You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that got Grace so, So basically Grace ends up coming back to town, and she stays because she talks to her mom's sister and finds out that the brother, Uncle Mac, never stopped doing this. He just went to a different person because he was a pedophile, so he was into young girls. So once he abused, his niece Faith for a while, and then when she got old enough, he moved on, and he just kept going through. But now they have this huge church, and he's been finding his victims within the church community. And the aunt says something to Gigi, but it was tripping me out because I was like, why wouldn't you say anything to your sister about it, right? But here goes the other issue that that happened with their toxic soul tie. So the other sister was being abused by the mother. So they all had this level of abuse that nobody knew about, and it literally brought enmity between them. They couldn't really stand each other, and the only reason that Mac and Lady May became so bonded with each other is because, like I said, they had that abuse, that sexual abuse in common, that secret in common, and it bonded them. It soul tied them in a different way than it did the other sister. So it pushed her out, and so she didn't know, that. She didn't know that her dad was sexually assaulting her sister, and didn't know that the dad was, doing it in front of her brother. So she just thought that, everybody knew that she was getting beat by the mom, but nobody said that because apparently the mom was beating the sister in front of everybody. But because May was being sexually assaulted by her dad, she just didn't say anything because this was just life for them, unfortunately. And this is not like a justification or anything. This is just to show you how deeply a soul tie, a toxic and demonic soul tie can be in the effects of this as well. Because Lady May didn't believe her daughters when they brought this to her attention, because she couldn't think and fathom that he would do this. Because they were so close and bonded. So even, he would dare do this to my daughter, you know what I'm saying? And so it clouded her judgment. And that's the effect of a soul tie. And what happened was, because she was blinded by who he was when he was younger, like her baby brother, instead of realizing that he could grow up to be this person, and even to see the signs that were going on with her daughter and things like that with both her daughters. One daughter literally just hightailed it, and she went smooth across country. She went over to, so they're from Memphis. She didn't just like move to the next state or anything like that, or the adjoining state. She went to Arizona. She kicked rocks, right? Like, she just was like, I don't want nothing to do. I don't want to be in no proximity to nobody coming over to me real quick. Like, she was distancing herself as far as possible from her family. And it was because of the attack, and then her parents not believing that her uncle abused her sister and things like that. And so she just didn't want any parts of the family anymore. And that is another effect of it. But the sister, Mavis, Lady May's older sister, they just never, their relationship was horrible. Like, honestly, Grace ended up becoming friends and close, let me say not friends, but close with her aunt. But it was really kind of out of spite of her mom. Like, she was just, she was like, I can't believe anything that my mom says, because she don't believe me, basically. So she started, going over to hang out with the aunt and getting to know the aunt. And they actually ended up building a better, more nurturing relationship than Grace had with her own mother. And that's what I'm saying. This soul tie, literally, that Lady May had with her brother, literally, just like little picked and deteriorated her relationship with her daughter bit by bit. And then it bonded Grace with her aunt instead of her mom. And so those are the effects of a soul tie. And it's just like, this show is like, I'm not even halfway into the knit and grit of the show. For those of you who do not know about the show, it's just layered. I just kind of wanted to come in and give a quick little description of what this show is about, and that's pretty much it. Like, from everything, that was like the initial situation that brought Grace back to town, and then how the, soul ties begin to unfold. And we're going to see some more blowback and aftermath of the whole soul tie and the relationship that was destroyed within Grace and her mom, and how it actually affected the rest of her siblings once she left. And her, not just her relationship with her mom, but the distance in relationship with her dad, her siblings. Like, she didn't get a chance to know her nieces or anything like that. And so she's bringing her daughter into this situation, in this family that she doesn't know. Like, we're gonna assume, from just because it's a modern, that at least she got a chance to talk on the phone with her grandparents periodically, and maybe even started FaceTiming and things like that. At a certain point, they actually even, her grandfather says, James, he's like, to Grace's daughter, whose name is Sophia, he's just like, let me see this granddaughter I've never met. And I was just like, whoa, like, she, you know what I'm saying? Like, and here's the other part of it. They didn't even go fly down when their granddaughter was born. And I don't know that they had the money at the time, but right now they do, right? Like, they're this huge mega church, and so they definitely have the money now. But it seems like that they had the money like 15, 16 years ago. And so the soul tie and the toxicity of the soul tie that between Grace and her mom, that her relationship with her brother just brew this whole toxic relationship that she can't even stand her daughter, to the point where she didn't go see her for her grandchild, and Grace is her oldest. You see what I'm saying? And so it's just like, when you really look at the effects of a soul tie, especially when it's a toxic soul tie, and that's mainly what we're talking about here, is toxic soul tie, in how it just mutates, because that's what happened. Like, it went from, like Lady May's dad sexually assaulting her and making it normal for their household, to the point where the uncle or the brother eventually starts doing the same thing that the dad was doing. And it built this like smoke screen for the sister, or Lady May, to the point where she could not see that these things were being done. And she didn't even want to see the like the effects or the symptoms of the stuff that was going on with her daughter. She didn't look at, and part of it is because we didn't know to do that. Let me say that. Like, I don't want to try to demonize her mom for not seeing the symptoms of the abuse, because and from a Black community standpoint, we didn't do therapy, so we didn't see that the lashing out, the drugs, or anything like that has a root to it. And because this young lady was brought up in a home, with a 2-parent home that was supposedly nurturing in church and faith-based and everything like that, people automatically assume that there's no root to it. Like, she's just tripping and wilding out, but there's always a root to our actions, right? It just is. And once we, as a people and as culture, understand that, I'm so grateful for the time that we're in now, because we are seeing a lot more people, especially like in the industry. And I think that's a push we're seeing in like in the entertainment industry, and even I'm not sure about sports, but I know entertainment industry and things like that, where you see Black men advocating for other Black men to go to therapy, and same for Black women. Although I think maybe for a moment Black women were going a little sooner than the Black men, even though I think there's still some work to do in that. But there's always a root to something that we're doing. We just need to figure out what it is. And sometimes it's not as obvious as the sexual assault. Sometimes it can be some other type of trauma and issue, like, you know what I'm saying, abandonment, of a parent and things like that, that can spark something. And so I say that to say that as we dive into the soul tie conversation from the family dynamic standpoint, we are getting ready to start seeing in this TV show. I mean, it is loaded. So definitely we're going to start seeing some different, the aftermath and the blowback of it. But here's the thing, not all of it is like, a lot of it is put on Grace when she comes back, like, and things start, blowing up and things like that. A lot of people pointed on her and they put it on her, like, if you wouldn't have came back, this wouldn't have happened and this wouldn't happen. But the truth of the matter is, it was already happening. A lot of the stuff was already happening. It's just because she came back, a lot of people are now aware of it and doing something about it. And that's typically what happens when you expose a toxic and demonic soul tie, and you start getting to the root of the issue and try to do your best and your part of correcting the situation and not perpetuating it. When Grace came back to town, she stayed because she wanted to stop her uncle from doing this to other women. Because what happened, she didn't say anything when he did it to her. When he did it to her sister, her parents didn't believe because, the sister recanted. And what did Grace do? She left. And actually, that brings up a whole nother conversation about assignments. When she came back, so when Grace left, when she found out what was going on and she left, Grace was a teen, but she was apparently like this great preacher. So she had a voice, she had influence and everything, but she also let the fear of the blowback silence her. And here's the thing, that's what happens with most people, especially at 18 years old. But here's the thing, it even happens with, adults. It's still adults who haven't come to the terms with the fact that they've been sexually assaulted or haven't even told anybody about it. And I'm not saying go and tell everybody, because that's private, so it shouldn't be disclosed to everybody unless, part of your assignment that Abba is doing is having you, voice it and use it as a testimony to help bring healing to others and things like that. But, and so what happened with Grace, she ran. She just couldn't deal with it. The assignment was too much. And so I always liken this to loosely to Jonah in the Bible. So, God told Jonah to do something and Jonah was like, I'm not doing that. So he tried to leave, and guess what? He ended up in the belly of a whale. And until he decided to do that, he was going to be obedient, that's when he was spit out, and then he went and did what he was supposed to do. That's almost kind of like Grace in a different dynamic. But she left, you know what I'm saying? She's like, I can't do this. I'm not about to tell everybody and fight this battle. So she left. And then when she finally had to come back through tragedy, unfortunately, you know what I'm saying, of her sister passing, she came, face to face and toe to toe with her assignment again. And her aunt actually even told her this, which was interesting, because the aunt told her, Gigi, God is giving you another opportunity to make this right. And it was interesting because even the aunt put this on her, like, you've been doing this and you've been knowing this is going on, but you know what I'm saying? Like, she didn't accept the assignment. She literally waited till Grace came back to take on the assignment, and then told her it was your assignment. Now, two things happened there. Eventually, it does show that Grace did have an assignment, and it seems like, since we are talking about, a faith-based show, that our assignments do show up sometime and come back full circle, especially when we after we've matured a little bit more and maybe gain a little bit more confidence. Sometimes Abba allows us another opportunity to get it right. Like the opportunity will present itself again, because why? It's an assignment. It's something that I need you to do, Tiffany. It's something that I need you to do, Grace, in this TV show. You know what I mean? And why? Because you're the one who can carry it out. You're the one who can hold, shoulder the things, the weight of it all, the blowback. Like, because you have to understand, like, when you become somebody to take on that type of assignment, sometimes, like, you know that you're gonna get ridiculed, you know what I mean? And she did. Like, Grace got drugged by her family members, and then at a certain point, like, she just got into some other stuff. But when you're taking on the assignment of God, you have to know that that's gonna happen. And what it showed in that is that the aunt wasn't willing to do it. The aunt wasn't willing to take on the assignment and the responsibility. And one of my spiritual moms or mentors, I can't remember which one, said something, and I'm paraphrasing this, that when you don't complete your assignment, if there's a family member who doesn't, complete their assignment, it flows down to, like, the next family member. And it's not always like a son or a daughter or something. It's just in the bloodline. If somebody in the bloodline, for instance, in my family, is supposed to do something and the other people prior to me did not do it, when it's like it gets put on Tiffany until it does. And once I fulfill the assignment, then that assignment for that family line is done, and then Abba can move us on to the next assignment. But that assignment must be fulfilled by somebody who's carrying the blood, the DNA of that particular family legacy. Does that make sense? So anyway, just kind of wanted to give a quick little discussion in regards to the soul tie with a brother and sister and how it affected the mother and daughter dynamic. And it literally took like 5 seasons for Grace and her mom to really reconcile the relationship, and it was definitely some highs and lows, and we'll get a little bit more into that when I'm going to see how Abba's going to do this when we get a little bit more into it. But for now, that's pretty much it for the soul tie conversation and the family dynamic. So my question for you guys is, have you ever seen something similar? It doesn't necessarily have to be, sexual abuse or anything like that, but have you seen the effects of a toxic soul tie within your family? And I'm going to challenge you to think and think about, even when it comes to like family secrets and things, because those family secrets tend to be the root of the soul tie. You know what I mean? Because it's like everybody is so, so wanting to keep this secret quiet and keep it in-house, and I'm again not saying that you need to go spread your family business everywhere, but if it's something like putting him in jail so that he won't hurt anybody and sexually assault somebody, then yeah, you got to get that whole blood thicker than water out when it comes to certain things that are happening. Now, blood thicker than water, that'll go for, you mad at him because, you know what I'm saying, he stole like $50 and stuff like that. Like, don't go put your brother in jail for $50. Like, I mean, if you want to, you can. But I'm saying, like, that's a different blood and thicker than water kind of situation. Sexual assault and you hurting somebody and you damaging and traumatizing them and assaulting them in any way, that's not where you use that, you know what I mean? And for years we've done that, and I get, as a community, as a people, because we are not treated fairly when it comes to the legal system or even being incarcerated and things like that, that made people do it. But you kind of got to count the cost and weigh, like him going to jail, is that not, does that not balance out all the people that he's going to victimize and whose lives he's going to, destroy and, or try or attempt to destroy? Because when people who are part of that, like in this storyline, one of the girls that he assaulted, she got pregnant. She was young. They had to move her, and she ended up having an abortion, and then she just spent. And when the story came out, of course, she was getting like bullied and things like that. So we have to think about those things and, count the cost of that soul tie. We really need to do that, like, because some actions have more weight and more serious, traumatic blowback than others. And that's what I'm saying. So anyway, let me know if you guys have ever seen this, if you agree with me about, how we need to assess them and, stop keeping the family secrets to the point where they end up, trickling down to other family members and things like that. And let me know what you think about the show, if you've seen it and things like that. And let's get into the discussion like we do down in the comments. For those who are listening or seeing this message on Spotify, you want to get involved in the conversation, head over to the YouTube channel. It is Soul and Screen, and join the conversation over there. I will see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.